Welcome back to another episode of Bossy, Brilliant, and Badass. I'm Lisa Lindsay here with my prolific co-host, Liz Green.
Perfect. I love it. I was like, oh, she's going to get something out of the episode, a word, an adjective out of the episode. That's great.
I love it.
Love it.
Girl, we have not done this in a while. I was like, oh, it took me.
I know, right? And when you think about it, Lisa, it hasn't really been that long. It's been what, 4 weeks, maybe?
Probably 4 weeks, but it felt, like
forever.
I know we were talking about it in the last, our non-episode episode that we recorded, but, but it was just sort of like, oh, I think I forgot how to do this, but on the bike.
Right. Because when we go from, recording a couple of episodes a week and then we take a break and come back, it's like, oh yeah, wait a second.
Wait, how do I remember how to do this?
Exactly.
How do we do this? But that was good. It was fun. Kojenwa was good.
Oh yeah, Kojenwa was great. And I always love to have a fellow Canadian, particularly a fellow Torontonian, on our show, and I can hear a little bit like the accent a little bit, making this home. I love it. Yeah. So so should we just bring her right on, or should we talk about something?
Yeah, let's just get right into it. I think if anybody wants to know what's been going on, listen to the last episode.
I was just going to say, listen to the last one, because we talk about everything that goes on or has been going on in our lives.
Yeah.
Good. Yes. Let's jump right in, because PR is something that public relations is something that we all have to be aware of as entrepreneurs, right? Mm-hmm. And we actually have not had a professional on to speak to this. So it's chock full of information and pointers.
Yeah. And recognizing that PR is different to marketing, right? Because, and also it's not just social media. So I'll say that.
Not just social media. Yeah. Yeah. We talk about the 4 burners, like on stove, having the 4 burners going. So, all right. So just a little bit about her. So Kojenwa Moitt, she's a publicist based out of Toronto and New York. And she's the CEO of Zebra Public Relations. And she teaches at Parsons University this very subject, public relations. So let's bring her on.
Kojenwa, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Lisa.
Yes, we are very excited. So listen, one of the things it's so amazing to me how much sometimes I feel like when we're booking this show and we're getting it ready, that we've talked about everything under the sun, but we have not talked about everything under the sun, because we have never had like a full-on like proper PR person on the show, which is what you do, right?
Yeah. Oh my God. You've never had a proper PR person on the show.
Not in the 2 years. Not in the 2 years. It's so crazy to me, because sometimes I'm like, yeah, we've done that, right? And it's like, no, we have not. Right, Liz?
Yes. And we're long overdue.
Long overdue, man.
Really looking forward to this.
All right. So why don't we kick off, right? What, PR is your specialty. It's what you do. Our audience is business owners. Why is this even important, right? Like, why is it even PR? Because sometimes could feel like PR is not for us as small business owners.
Well, PR has always been couched one of these industries that most people don't have access to. Mm-hmm. And I think it's always been positioned as this item that you need only if you're a celebrity, or if you're a high-ranking official, or some kind of UN convoy or something. And the truth of the matter is, now with, I think, 4.5 million people who have just joined the ranking of entrepreneurship, the game is fierce, boo. You got to make sure that people know where to come find you. Yeah. If they don't know where to come find you, then
they're not going to find you.
They're not going to find you.
Right.
So what are you going to do? What are you going to do to stand out from the herd, as we always say at Zebra? What are you going to do to make yourself remarkable, make yourself attractive to legions of people who potentially could be booking your services for something they need? Right?
Right.
Yeah. So interesting. So how is this PR? And I think this seems like might be a basic question, but how is it different to marketing
Yeah,
or advertising?
that's a question I get a lot. You know, PR can be accounted for in the balance sheet. You would see an item called goodwill, which just means like the basic worth of your company is that, right? That ongoing revenue that you would otherwise collect, even if you weren't around, right? Think of companies like Coca-Cola, legacy brands, Heinz, Campbell's. Their company's worth something because they've been in the business of producing this exact thing for years and years and years and years. So PR is the value that the people hold when they see you. They said, oh, this company is high esteem. I'm willing to pay for it. The market says, yes, I'm willing to pay for this service or good because it brings me value or joy or, you know, whatever intrinsic value brings you. Marketing is really the science of numbers, the science of making money, the science, engineering
behind it.
Behind it, of becoming prolific. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And that's kind of what we're after today, right? Like that's the goal of our conversation. It's like, how do little old me, little old Liz, little old listener who's listening with their business, how do we get from where we are today to prolific? And not only that, really with the goal, it sounds like, of helping people to find us, right?
Exactly. I think the first thing I would say is remove the little old, because it's not
Thank
old.
you. You're right.
Okay?
You're right. You're right. You're right.
It's big new. It's big new, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, we always start with mindset, because the way you shift your mentality around what you do. I speak to countless women who tell me, I've been told all sorts of things. I'm too old to find love. These are all non-supportive stories that are cycling over and over. I'm too little, I'm too negligible, I don't have enough money. And if you can turn that into, here are a set of clients, a set of people that have a specific need for what I provide. Underwater socks. I don't know.
Right.
Right?
Underwater
it's
socks.
not,
I love it.
I have a little old underwater sock company. It's like I have a big new underwater sock company.
It's freaking fabulous.
Yeah, it's
fabulous.
So fabulous.
Yes.
The scuba industry is all over it. It's going to do $1 billion in the next 5 years. You go all in to your little old idea and convert that shit into money, honey.
So
Yes.
say our mindset is there. So we have all this confidence around our product, our service, and we don't know really where to start when it comes to all of this. PR, getting ourselves known, getting our business, our product known. And also, I'm going to just add, we don't have a huge budget for it, because oftentimes we don't when we're first starting out. What do I do first?
Well, the first thing I would do, I mean, we have at Zebra anyway, and I'm happy, for anybody who would like it, we have a free social media planner. This is one strategy in public relations. I always say PR and marketing, it's like 4 burners going at Thanksgiving. One is your traditional media, your TV, your radio, your film, your print magazines, your New York Times paper. One is your social media, your Instagram, your LinkedIn, your Google, your website, right? Still the other is your mobile media, the way you communicate via newsletter, your list, the people, and then word of mouth. I touch you, you touch me, you come to my event, you come to my party, you come to my speech, you come see me speak, right? So all 4 of those burners have campaigns going, right? Start small. Think of 4 burners, right? Word of mouth, traditional, social, mobile. And think about one tactic that you can effectuate in each of those brackets. So maybe for social, you say, right now, I'm going to focus on, and I don't have a lot of money, I'm going to focus on curating my LinkedIn connections. I'm going to make sure that I go on the back end of my LinkedIn and I can see all the people who are following me. And make it such that entrepreneurs are following me if I'm in the coaching business.
Mhm.
You know, make it such that, that maybe if you're in the shoe business, that stylists are following me so I can engage and communicate with them. And it's important to remember that a conversation is an opportunity to talk about your business, to talk about what you do. So, yeah, right.
Mhm.
But it
That's
is
great.
important, as well as to know that there should be some budget. We don't want to work with people who say to themselves, oh, it's going to cost me $10 to launch that Facebook ad. So what? Release it. Decide on what the number is going to be, whether it's $20 or $200 or $2,000, and just go for it. Just go for it. What's the problem?
Yeah. So decide what is there, what's doable and realistic in your budget, and go for it. Because it's going to be different at different stages of your company, right?
And let me ask, why do you give that advice of releasing it? Because I know, it's not like we're sitting here with you and we're having a conversation with a money person, right? Because a money person is going to say, look, risk, taxes, profit, but we've had enough money people come on here and say, pay yourself, do the thing you need to do to grow your business, yada, 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 right? I'm just curious from your perspective. And of course, I will call out and say, there's of course the self-serving answer, right? Which is, but from your perspective, why go forward with the idea of just doing it? Find something in the budget to do it because it's worth it.
It's the biggest obstacle that I've ever observed between entrepreneurs who have made it and those who are stagnant and still in the exact same position they were in 5 years ago, and if not worse, because they've spiraled into nothing is worth the risk. And my view is everything is worth the risk. You have to be, as an entrepreneur, in a position where you say to yourself, what it is that I'm here for, that I've been put on this planet to do, I'm willing to die for that, period. There's nothing else that I would rather do than what it is that I currently do, right? And there's room enough for everybody. Like just yesterday, I'm getting pitched a vegan mayo from Israel. The company is in Israel and in New York. Yeah, I want to work with you. Vegan foods and products are going to skyrocket through the roof. Don't you think they took a risk on Impossible Beef? It's a huge risk, millions of dollars at stake, and it may not pay off. But what they did do well, and what everybody does well, is you analyze your market, because for your business to grow, you must have already precedent or proof that a market exists, first off. Right?
And vegan mayo, is not for me.
Right.
It's for me.
But it's for, I was just going to say, I think it's for Liz though.
It's for Liz. It's for Liz. And they probably know, they said of the 3 people that are here, one of them would try
vegan
the product.
Right.
Right. So they know that. That's a third, and that's okay. Good for you. And you know what? Maybe it is for me. Maybe eventually it's for me.
For you.
Yeah. So I like this idea, this concept of you've got these 4 burners, right? And is it your position that we pick something from each one of those burners and try a strategy and run it out and work at it? Is that what I heard?
That's what you heard. So what we've done is we've designed a template, a blank template, which we've called the marketing blueprint map, which allows us to mark what we're doing in each burner and follow that through to execution. Because what we observed is that you could come up today, right, with 200 ideas for how to get your company out there, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Like 200 ideas.
Lots of them, always, but no time and no energy to do.
No time, no energy,
right?
And it's it's depleting, because you see the list. It's either in your brain or you put it on your notebook or in your notes on your phone, and you're just like, I can't do any of these because I'm truly overwhelmed. And I just don't even know where to start with it. So we give the marketing blueprint map so that we can start to populate it. Just 1, 2, 3 things in each when we work with them, actually. And then we move into the tactical strategic approach, right? So let's say we took, what did we say? We said traditional media, right? It was the It was the desire of the client to become known in television for what they do. They're an expert, let's say, in cryptocurrency. All right, so then the publicist says, well, how many reporters, how many journalists talk about this, right? And then we then isolate a list of reporters, and we put the press kit together, the marketing kit together, and we start to submit to these reporters, because we know on average, if we speak to 10 or 15 reporters, one of them will say, I would like to interview the client. So the back end, the marketing end, it's really all numbers. It's all organizational behavior, habit building, and numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like, yeah, coaching stuff too.
Yeah.
So, all right. So let's jump forward a little bit. My company's doing pretty well. And now but I don't have time, or at least I haven't found a way to slot out time to do some of this stuff. I want to hire a PR person to be part of my team. What then typically would that PR person do?
So the day-to-day activity of any publicist can range from creating digital documents like small ads, ads for TikTok, ads for social media usage, combining elements of audio and video together to make one message. We're writing often, right? We're putting written works together for a newsletter that may be going out. Maybe there's a newsletter campaign. Maybe there's a word of mouth campaign and we're organizing a press junket. Now we have to reach out to X number of reporters and get 10 credible outlets to come and cover the story. Maybe we're putting an event together. Maybe we're responsible for ensuring that our client is at said event so that they can network with opportunities that are going to bolster their personal economy, their business economy. So for the entrepreneur that is doing well, it's really about sustaining that machine, like what we call a well-oiled car. You've got gas in the car. You might be too busy, but gas needs to go in the car. So whether you send the assistant out to get it or whether it's you, either way,
gas has to go in the car.
The gas has to go in the car.
Yeah. It's interesting, right? Because I like that the idea of shifting your mindset from this idea that the work that you do, because it's really fundamental. It's fundamental stuff. And it sounds to me like that first layer of the marketing, which is customer awareness. It's like the work you're doing is all about awareness, building, having people know who you are. But I think the word you use with us is prolific, right? So how is that different? Because I have a sense that when I hear that word, it is very different than just being known.
Yeah. I mean, I think that because of my background in film and TV, like I met actors that people would only dream of working with. I mean, I found myself standing in a hospital that had been built in studio with Denzel Washington on the set of John Q, and found myself in a church with Angela Bassett for a film I'd been working background on. She turns and says, "That dress looks really good on you," and I'm like,
"You're Angela Bassett."
How? And I'm like, and it's Jessica Alba, and we're wearing the same Rockaware tracksuit that day. I'm like, so I really delved into the world of people who are prolific. I think I have a picture with LL Cool J that Facebook won't allow me to post. You know what I'm saying? So
I would call Mark up and be like, "Mark, what the hell?"
Literally, Monique, Mandy Moore, Jane Seymour, Ray Liotta. I was the crackhead one time in one of his scenes. I've studied people who are prolific, and I'm like, what separates them from people who are just here to play small? I've just never been here to play small. I've been here to show up and show out. And when you hit a certain level of confidence in your business where things are rocking and rolling, people are calling inbound, which was always the goal. Like, I shouldn't have to start making all these calls at some point. The calls should just start flowing in from all the work output. Right. And you want to get to that point where you stand for something, where you have a legacy about something. Like, think about, I'm sure, was it Paul Newman, and he had the line of lemonades and dressings and all of it went to charity. Legacy. Mm-hmm. Or from the largest to the small. I found myself pitching in front of Richard Branson one day. I'm like, what separates him from average? It's because he's willing to take the risk and pay people to come through for the hackathon. And then the winning idea, he's actually going to implement it, which he did, which it came out that what he wanted was a way to celebrate and welcome his most prestigious members and thank them. And that customer-focused, heart-centered business entrepreneur is really what's doing it right now. Mm-hmm. It's literally all about them and their interaction, their experience with it. And he built that club, the Virgin Club, apparently, which I've never been to yet, but I heard it's beautiful. And that's what came out of the ideation. So being able to take risks is fundamental to this.
Mm-hmm. I love that you say you haven't been to Virgin Club yet, because we're still going to get there, right?
We are.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. So then what do I do? Right? Because here I am, I'm an HR consultant, and, sure, I don't know that I want to be Richard Branson. I don't necessarily know that I want to be Angela Bassett, but I do want to be prolific in my own right, whatever that might mean.
That's
right.
It. Yeah.
And I'm sure that that's a lot of our listeners feel that way. I think a lot of people who start businesses feel that way. I mean, Liz, you can tell me if you feel that way. Maybe you don't. I don't know.
I do.
Right. Yeah. So it's just sort of like, so what do I do then? It's sort of like, yeah, I'd love to be prolific, but what do I do? What do I do?
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the first things I do, it doesn't cost anything at all to do some research on your own name. Step outside of yourself and go in as though you were Mr. Mrs. Joe Public and perceive what somebody else would perceive about you. Let's say you are in HR and you're like, I want to be prolific in my domain to the point where such and such companies are calling me for my advice and my ability to consult on HR strategy, HR best practices, methodology, and management. Then you're going to do the work, but you'd also would like to look at your profile. What does your LinkedIn profile look like, feel like? Who's on there? Who are you sharing the stage with? Do you have people that you collaborate with? And what was your objective anyway? Was it to take on larger size clients? So I think a full assessment, like if we liken this to a car, it's like doing the circle check. Are my tires a little deflated? Are my numbers a little bit low on social? Am I feeling like I need to amplify something or communicate a message that I need to get out there? It starts with what's inside anyway. Your authenticity comes from inside and shines outwards.
There's that word again.
Yeah.
Right? Our word.
That's right. Always. We always start with that. And you'll find it in acting too, and it being firmly planted in your field of business. It doesn't matter whether you play the oboe and your objective is to land a gig with the symphony, right? You've got to sharpen your skills. You've got to keep training, work with the greats, train every day, look at your profile, position yourself as someone that is viable in your industry and in the top of your field. Normally what Google would say is, can I find you on the first 2 pages? If I type in your name, maybe you have a common name. Maybe your name is Lisa Smith.
My name is Lisa Lindsay, and it is a very common name. And
Right.
I got to be honest, Kojenwa, there was a point in time where I was really proud of that. I was like, oh, you could Google me, you can't find me. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm quite proud of this idea that I cannot be found, recognizing, wait, that's a problem.
Yeah.
maybe I want to be found, and maybe I want to be found in a certain way. And now that's changed. I mean, and certainly if you go do an image search and you search for my name, you will find me. It's still working on the text results, but whatever. If you do an image search on Google, Lord Jesus help me.
Yeah.
It's like you can find me, and you'll get to stuff. But definitely you can find us. You found me and Liz. Because I actually did that one day where I searched my name, and
Yeah.
there is a pretty famous district attorney who has the same name, same spelling, same everything in Detroit. And I'm like, all right, maybe I'm fine with her being like first.
Your mascot. Yeah.
but yes, I hear you on that. And it sounds to me like the message ultimately is you gotta put yourself out there, which we have talked about consistently over and over again on this show, that all of it is about stepping across that fear, across that gap of fear, or whatever that limiting belief might be. And putting yourself out there and letting yourself be known, and also making sure that you're being known for the right things, because that's what dawned on me. I was like, okay, I'm fine with these images. These are not like, that's my headshot, and it takes you to my LinkedIn, or it's my headshot and it takes you to the Bossy Brilliant Badass page. I'm cool with all of those. Right. But, just worried about what might be out there about me.
Yeah.
And putting myself out there is hard. But that sounds like what the message is, right?
That's right. The message is, no matter how awkward it feels, no matter how, we do talk about the haters, because they will come for you. They will come for you. Like, what is she doing?
We don't have a lot yet, but let's keep knocking so we don't get any.
I mean, exactly. They
Well,
almost
the bigger
tell
you get, the more popular you get, the more haters you're going to have, I think, is kind of general rule, right? On some level.
Well, that was it, Liz, because there was a rule around the numbers of it all. Like, out of 10, 2 of them think you walk on water. You're so majestic. Maybe like 6 of them have no problems with you, can interact one way or the other, no problem. And then the other 2 on the other side of the bell are just like, I just can't stand her. It has nothing.
Is that where NPS comes from? The NPS score, that scaling comes from the NPS score scaling?
Possibly. I have to look
That's
at
actually interesting. Yeah, because I'm like, oh, 2, you're right, because your promoters on the NPS score, anybody who rates you a 9 or 10.
And isn't it like most don't care?
Most don't care.
That's
care less about you.
Yeah.
Or your business.
Yeah,
right,
one way or the other.
But it's our tendency to kind of like hone in on the negative and really obsess.
Yeah. Well, and that's why we coach a lot of, people who are like, they're struggling with that, because it can be killer the other way. If you're obsessive type, OCD, like entrepreneurs are notable for being either ADHD, OCD, what else? Give me, anxiety ridden,
perfectionist, depressive, all of it. We got we have the whole thing.
Yeah, thrill seeking. Yeah.
We got all kinds of things going on in our entrepreneur brain.
A lot of overhead baggage.
Yeah.
So that's, I guess, some of the fear around being visible is what we're saying, right? Some of that fear. And I'm hearing, finding a way to get past that and just being visible, taking that risk, stepping into your courage, and just, this is me, or this is my business, this is my service, and just putting ourselves out there. That is scary. And so when we do that, when we start putting ourselves out there, we have these burners going, maybe we have some money to have a PR consultant on board, maybe not so much. What would you say would be the most, can I talk a bit about our podcast and put that out as an example?
Of course, always. Yeah, we'll cut this piece, but let's talk about our podcast.
Yeah. So Lisa and I, we do most of the, well, I should say Lisa probably does most of the producing herself. We're not really at a place where we have thought about hiring a PR person, but we've certainly done some of that ourselves. And our podcast is growing and growing, and we're pretty happy with where it's going. We'd like some more listeners, though, wouldn't you say, Lisa? Why not?
One
some
or two.
more.
Just a couple.
Yeah. And so we hire you. What would you say to us? What would be a couple of important pointers you could give to us?
Yeah. So first of all, I want to listen to the podcast and give you specific feedback from someone who would be a potential listeners, and also knowing how producers work. I want to hear the sound, that your diction is good, that you don't have too many choppy edits, that you are starting to have more commercials, right? Or stronger commercials, because it indicates to me that your content is good enough that somebody would say, I would like to publish my information using your platforms. They're very signals that the public is receiving. The other thing I would absolutely recommend is that you train in social media to create vignettes that bring people to the show. And outlets like Snapchat, it's very cheap to do because it's nothing at all, will allow you to link things, right? Facebook and Instagram's Creator Studio is really designed for you to shoot out content in a systematic basis and track your numbers therefore, right? And I just feel like the majority of people in your position know 10 to 15% of all systems. And if you can maximize that, right? If you can maximize that, where you're like, this is what we're going to do, because we know we have the show coming up, and we know that promo works a week before. And then when we drop the show, we know that our market, like, I want you to study the market. I want to, begin thinking, all right, should we put a press kit together? Because now we'd like to pitch to iHeartRadio. I would like to know what your objectives are, right? So we get in an alignment conversation. The first thing I always said with Zebra is, I want PR to be accessible, because I am media friendly, because it is such an elitist operation that I'm going to create the PR DIY. Most people go to zebra.new/shop, and they can pick up a free thing, a free social media planner there. They can pick up the PR DIY there, which is my online program. I think we're at $248 for that 4-week session, so that you can hold your cash until you're ready. You know what to do now. You have your plan, and we've got accountability around what we're going to do, right? So definitely get out there. That's the gist of it. But have a plan, an executional plan for how you plan to
get there. Yeah. So, I mean, even if we kind of localize it to the podcast, right? And think about the podcast and say, okay, we want to get more visibility. There's something that you said that kind of resonated with me earlier, but now I'm thinking, okay, think about it from the podcast perspective. And I think we use the podcast a lot. We use ourselves a lot as guinea pigs on the show when we're talking to experts like yourself, so that it's sort of like a direct way for people to start to think about their own thing. But anyway, you said something about reporters, and I'm like, I just had the thought. I was like, maybe I need to have some people review the show, right? Like people who write about podcast reviews, or creators of podcast content, specifically business podcasts. Maybe I should be like, listen to these episodes, write a thing. Or are you interested in writing a thing? And that would be traditional, or would that be mobile? But that's one of our burners, right? Like that would be something that.
Yes, exactly.
Because we're doing the social media thing, right? Obviously, that's where some people come to us through our social media. But I don't think we're doing any of the other 3 burners. Right. Because everything these days are so centered. And then, of course, there's word of mouth, because there's people who know I do the show, and there's people who know Liz does the show, and some of our guests will tell people. And so we know the word of mouth is working. So that burner is working. That is working as well. And I almost always think that when you're starting, or when you're in maybe young in your business life, word of mouth referrals is what we call them in the HR world, at least. are going to be huge for you to get stuff. But the other two burners, I'm particularly intrigued by the traditional, right? Especially in this world where social media is so emphasized. I'm curious about that. And you could use the podcast as an example, or you could just use any example you want.
Yeah, no, I mean, I built out a podcast because I had a lot to say and I was bored during COVID, so I get it. And, my campaign for my burner, let's say it had to do with word of mouth, is the type of clients that I would have, or the type of people that I would have on the show.
Right.
And they weren't clients, they were just people who were prolific, like it could have been a Real Housewives or one of the housewives or whoever. I was very deliberate about who I would interview. So that was, my way of raising the bar that way. But there are tools out there that publicists use. Like we have a reporter matching service. And for myself, and I always say, I need to be the best client in my firm because I have to be able to have that transcend over to the client as well. So I just started positioning myself as a speaker on celebrity scandals. And so when reporters find me, they're like, can you report about pop culture? Yes. Can you report about, current events, political events? Yes. Right. Because TV will call and they need to know that they can count on you to give sound, coherent comment. They want to know that you speak with clarity, good diction, that you present well, that you're on time for production, and word starts to get around. And then you use that media to say, you see, we're rising in our rankings, in our publicity, and we're now getting called on from all these other outlets that would like to hear us speak, right? So you're almost, what they tell you is that you have to have a deal with yourself, that you are in the business of promoting and publicizing your own company, right? So if Lisa Lindsay is a popular name, it becomes like, the Lindsay Company instead, right? And that's what we put out there.
Right.
Really learning how to pivot and play with names to give the signal that you are in business and available.
Yeah. And the things we can talk about, what we can say. Yeah. So it's really, and I think some of it is that it always feels like just another thing to do, right? It's just this other thing to do, particularly when you're running the business and you're in the business and you're the person doing the work. That becomes the hard part because it's like, ugh. And sometimes we start our business because we want to do the work, right? The type of entrepreneur that some of us are the actual, I think they're called technical entrepreneurs, where it's sort of like you start your business because this is the type of work you want to do. You could care less about the other stuff. You don't want to do the sales. You don't want to do the marketing, definitely not the PR. Can I just can somebody just hand me over the project and let me do the project?
That's right. Yeah.
Right. So how do we get past that then? How do we get past this idea and this feeling? So separate to the fear of putting yourself out there, but this idea that it's another thing I got to do.
We have a system called time blocking. Like the calendar is your best friend, friend. Look at Calendly, the system, this tool was built for people like us, that we didn't have to pay more than $10 or $12 or even $15 to have an administrative assistant take our business meetings for us. And backlink that, learning communication and marketing strategies like calls to action, learn more, click here, buy now, check out our latest.
Listen now.
Check out our
latest.
Premiering tomorrow, calls to action, right? Like what is the directive that I'm giving to the public, and why would they ever want to be there? Because your program is the most interesting, compelling program.
It is the best one. Like, I don't understand how the whole world is not listening. This is very confusing to me.
You know what I mean? I mean, there's so many tactical approaches. Let's say one of your burners for social was, I'm going to do a Google ad spend. Listen, I've done the Google ad spend. One day I had like some chunk of money taken out. It's Google. I'm like, what the? I didn't know what I was doing. I had to test it. So you're going to test stuff. And I would always say, I'm not a financial person, but I always have some kind of cash card allocated for stuff that's coming out recurring so that I can see it. And I don't have it linked to my corporate account because I need to see what's happening.
Yeah.
I don't like that feeling of I'm out of control and I don't know tomorrow.
Yeah. Let's set a little bit
Set
aside.
Yeah. Set it and forget it. And have an accounting of all the items, your capital expense sheet. You could simply do this in Google, Excel, line them up and add it all at the bottom and say, okay, this is what I need to bring in every month. If I can do double that, I'm flying high, baby. And let go of the emotional attachment to money or to any one person. Rather, focus on the delivery, the work, the assignment, the project. Can somebody hand me the project and I'll just do it? It's still employer-employee mentality.
Yeah.
Right? The idea
100%. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's stepping out of this idea that I'm a worker and recognizing that I'm building a business and I'm a CEO.
I'm building a business. I'm the CEO and we need to put out money, right?
Yeah.
It begets money.
Oftentimes. Yep. When we get to a certain level. Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's only so much we can do on our own, particularly when we are running our own companies. As you said, Lisa, last thing you want to feel as an entrepreneur is overwhelm.
And it comes in so many other ways anyway. So it's just sort of like, take this one thing off my plate.
Right.
Exactly. Like when it comes, like, I can't recall what I had for dinner last night. That's when burnout's starting to creep in.
Hold on. What did I have for dinner last night?
I have no idea. We're burnt out, Lisa.
And it's the beginning of the year, right? So you're like, oh.
Yeah, that's so crazy. Kojenwa, thank you so much for sharing that with us. Is there anything else, like from our conversation today? What is the big idea? If our audience took nothing else away from our chat with you, what is the one thing you want them to take away?
I want for this audience to know that whatever it is that they've decided to do in this lifetime, I don't know about other lifetimes, but I do know about this one. Whatever it is that you choose to do, decide to go into it with full faith. If there's any wobble, your receiver will know. So get very clear on what is the business idea and what is the business model. How are you going to make money delivering what it is that you do? And once you start getting that confidence up from those cash sales, you're onto something, and then you can fly from there. And the rest is just putting yourself out there and being diligent daily and apply the pressure daily, right? So
awesome.
Excellent. Sounds great. So where can people find you?
Yeah, so find us anytime at zebrapublicrelations.com. We have a link there if you want to book a discovery call. It's absolutely free to do that. And should you require extra resources, just book that discovery call and we're happy to send you extra resources for how you can top up your game, whether it's an online course or some one-on-one training, or if you want a deeper conversation about our monthlies. We do month-to-month retainers. It's a shaky economy, but we want everybody to know that everything they put into their PR and marketing will yield. It really just takes a lot of diligence. Yeah. And that's whether you do it for yourself or hire someone else.
Excellent. Perfect. Love it. All right. So thank you so much for being here with us today. And
thank you.
Thank you for being our badass of the week.
I love being a badass. Badass to the bone.
Badass to the bone.